This video is going to be a demonstration of using a data class in a Java program. We're going to solve this problem, the CarLot. This is going to be the most complex, the most complicated example we've done so far in the course. At this point, we are nearing the end of the material for this particular course, and so we are going to be building on everything we've learned so far is going to be present in this in this example. So this example is involved, and it's going to take a while. So this video is going to be longer than some of the others that we've done. So just be prepared to spend the correct amount of time following along with this and doing the work yourself. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's read the problem. We're going to create a class named CarLot. So we're going to write a program that's going to let the user manage a CarLot. We're going to create a data class named car that has 4 properties: year, model, mileage, and a string field called mileage range that indicates if mileage is high, average, or low. Okay, so this is going to be our constructor for the car class. We're going to send 3 variables in. The mileage range is going to be calculated based on the miles. So we're going to do a formula or an if statement on mileage, and then we're going to return a value. Here's how that works down here at the bottom. So this is what our constructor looks like. Mileage range is calculated. Here's low, average, and high based on the ranges of mileage. So we're going to have to know what the current year is, and so we can do that using Java. We can use this. We're going to import java.time.localDate, and we're going to get localDate.now.getYear, and it's going to tell us what the current year is. And then we can do math on that to figure out how old the car is. Then we're going to write a menu-based program to collect cars and store them in an array list. So we're going to have a menu that's going to allow a user to add a car to the array list, to the CarLot. We're going to allow the user to change the mileage of any car. So we're going to have to write a menu that displays the list of cars that are in the array list. So we're actually going to write a menu where the menu options will be the entries from an array list. And then we're going to be able to pick one of those and then we'll operate on it because we want to be able to change the mileage on a car. Okay, and we need to use appropriate input validation on everything. So it looks like we're going to need positive integers for the mileage. We're going to need to get a year value there. So we're going to need to be able to get a year value that's something that looks like a year. So we're going to have to come up with some input validation rules on what a year is. So obviously it's a positive integer, but we're probably going to want to give it a range. Maybe we'll say it's a range that can't be greater than the current year. So if the current year is 2024, 2025, 2028, whatever the current year is, we don't want to be able to enter a year that's beyond the current year. And also we don't want to enter something that doesn't look like a year. So 10,509, that's not a valid year. It's, or something like year 5, that's also not valid. So we're going to have to come up with some input validation on the year. Okay, so let's get started. So we've got everything in this program. We've got methods, we've got input validation, we've got our own data class, we've got menu driven, we're going to have switch statement, we're going to have a while loop, we're going to have an if statement. So we've got everything we've done so far in the course is going to be present in this example. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is create our Java class or our Java program. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write this car class. So I'm going to create a car file, a car.java file, and put some work into that just to get us started. And then I think I'm going to come back and I'm going to start the menu, and I'm going to be able to add cars to the array list. So let's go ahead and start with that. Come to JDoodle, start our program. We're making a multi-file program, so we want to make sure we pick the multi-file project type. And we're going to start with an example. So now we've got our multi-file view. We've got this extra panel that has all the different files in our class. I'm going to go ahead and rename my class.java, which is the default name. I'm going to call it CarLot.java. And then I'm going to rename my class here to CarLot. Remember, the class that you define needs to, the name of the .java file that the class is contained in has to be the same as the name of the class. So CarLot.java must contain the class called CarLot. CarLot must be in a .java file named CarLot.java. Okay, get rid of the boilerplate here. I'm going to need a scanner, so let's go ahead and do that while I'm thinking about it. Okay. Now let's go ahead and put our car.java. This is going to be our data class. Let's make sure we spell that correctly. So it needs to be car uppercase C because it's a class. So it's going to be upper camel case. So we're going to call that car.java. Now I've got my two files here. CarLot.java is going to be my presentation layer. This is going to be where all my user input takes place. And car.java is going to be the class that is going to be the instance of my it's going to be the instance of my cars. Okay, so I'm going to hide this panel for now. Let's go ahead and do the car a little bit. Public class car. It's going to have 3 variables int year. We need to call that private because it's an instance variable. The other one is going to be private string make. I think it was make, wasn't it? Or was it model? Model and mileage. Okay. Private string model, lowercase m, and then we're going to have private int mileage. Mileage could be a double here, but just for sake of simplicity, I'm going to make it an int. Okay, and then I'm going to have a constructor. It's going to be public car, and it's going to take 3 variables, year, string, model, int, mileage. And then we'll just do the assignments. This dot year equals year. This dot model equals model. Dot mileage equals mileage. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and write some getters. Public get. We'll do them alphabetical order. Get mileage. It's going to be an int. It's just going to return mileage. Next, we'll have public get model. No parameters, and it will say return model. Public get year, no parameters, return year. And I need to put the data type on that, on both of these. So that's public int for year and a public string for get model. Okay. Okay, so this is probably good. Let's just compile that. It's not going to do anything because there's no logic in it yet, but it does compile. So I have no syntax errors at least. So that's good. Okay, we're not done with the car yet. We're going to need to write a setter for mileage because we're going to want to be able to update the mileage. We're going to also need to implement the mileage range function. So we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do that in a few minutes. So the next thing I want to do is start working on my presentation layer. So let's come back to CarLot. So we're going to want to create an array list of cars here. So I'm going to need to define an array list. Let's go ahead and do the import on the array list. Java.util.arraylist. Okay. And then I'm going to define my array list because my array list is going to be used by every method in my code here. I would have to pass it around a lot as a parameter, and that gets clumsy. So because the car lot is operating on this data set of cars, instead of defining that inside the main method, I'm going to define it right here in the car lot. So I'm going to define my array list. I'm going to say array list of car equals new and it's going to be CarLot's going to be the name. We'll just call it cars. Equals new array list of car. Okay. So just like I was defining an array list of integers, I'm defining my data type here as car because I've created this car class, which is going to hold data. I can now use that as a data type, just like I would use integer or double. And I'm also defining it here as an instance variable of my CarLot class. This means that this is going to be a global variable in every method of the CarLot. So now I can use this array list in every method inside this class without having to pass it as variable. It's the same way that we did car here, where we defined year, model, and mileage. These are instance level classes, instance level variables rather. So in this case, I'm defining it here as CarLot. One thing that I do need to specify that this is public and static. That is different on this presentation layer than in my car class. It needs to be public and static because all of my methods in my presentation layer are public and static. And so in order for it to be used by these methods, it needs to be defined in this way. So now I have my presentation layer. This is my data, okay, and we will be using that data as we finish out our programming. Okay, all right. So now let's go ahead and create. We need a menu. We're going to want to have a menu to create a car, a menu to edit a car, and a menu to print out the CarLot inventory. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we'll need a menu. So first thing we need is a scanner. So let's get our scanner created. Okay. That period. Uppercase system. Here's my scanner. Now I need a keep going loop because I'm doing a menu here. Okay, so in menu driven, we'll have a keep going. We'll have option 1, 2, 3, 4. Add a car, change the mileage, print the CarLot inventory, and quit the program. Okay, so let's go ahead and do keep going. Rid of that space. While keep going. Blocks. So now while keep going, here's going to be my menu. System.out.println. Option 1. Add a car to the lot. Option 2 will be to update mileage for a car. Option 3 will be to show the inventory. And then option 4 will be to quit the program. Then we'll say, we'll ask them to enter their choice. Let's see, let's say you select an option. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's put a new line here at line 1 so that we get a little spacing on the options. So now we collect the input from the user using the scanner. Let's call it option equals scanner.next line. Then we'll do a switch statement. We don't need an uppercase or lowercase here because we're using integers 1, 2, 3, 4, but we are using them as a string. We're using digits rather than integers, so we don't need to worry about uppercase or anything like that. So our switch will be on option. block there. Here's the case. First case will be 1. Then we'll break. We'll come back and code that in later. I'm just going to cut and paste these for simplicity. Copy that, right? Okay. And we'll have a default. So here's option 2. Here's option 3. There's option 4. Option 4 is going to be keep going equals false. Break, and then this will be the default. And for default, we'll say it's not a valid option. Okay. And then when we end, let's just go ahead and, so after the while loop is over, let's just go ahead and put in a just a message that says the program is over. Thank you for visiting my CarLot. Okay, we'll put a new line in there for that. Okay, let's run this, make sure it's working. I've written a lot of code. We should compile it and check for errors. Let's see. So Java line 11, keep going. I used an uppercase K, so that's a spelling mistake. Change that to lowercase. Let's see. Okay, so that's the only one. So now these options don't do anything because we haven't coded that yet. But if I enter something that's not a valid option, that is not a valid option. And if I enter 4 for quit, thank you for my CarLot. Okay. Okay, so now we can actually begin to collect data on this. So the first thing we want to do is want to add a car to the CarLot. So let's go ahead and do that. So in our option 1, we'll just call a method here called add car. And we'll send scanner. Okay. Let's go ahead and enter that method. Go ahead and type that method up. It'll be this one, public, static. That's void because there's no return type. Add car. Takes 1 parameter as a scanner. Get the block. Okay, so now to add a car, I need to prompt for 3 pieces of data. I need the year, the model, and the mileage. So it's going to be 2020 Camry with 75,000 miles on it. Okay, so I'm going to need a get integer, a get positive integer. And I'm going to need to get a range here because the year, I think what we'll do for the year is we'll just take the current year, which this video is in 2024. We'll take the current year and we'll just say a valid year must be the current year minus 30 years. So we'll just say we will only have cars that are less than 30 years old. So I'm going to need a couple of input options to do this. So first thing I want to do is for add a car. I'm going to want to get the I'm going to say int year equals, this is going to be get year, okay? But to get a year, I need to get an integer. So I really need to write the get integer. And this is really going to be get integer and range because my range is going to be a 30-year period. For the mileage, I can use the same get int and range because it will be the mileage must be at least it must be positive. So I can use a minimum of 0 and a maximum of the maximum integer value. So let's say get int year is going to be get int and range. And we're going to send a scanner and we're going to send a prompt. What year is the car? Okay. And then the minimum value is going to be the minimum year. Let's just call min year. Let's just put in a variable there, and then we'll figure out how to max year. Okay, and then we'll define those variables here. Okay. So let's just start for just because we want to, what I want to do is write get in and range. I don't want to do the math on the year right at this minute. So I'm just gonna stub this out and say minimum year is going to be 2000 and max year is going to be 2024. Okay. So that we'll come back and we'll finish this in a minute. So right now I just really wanted to get this done so that I could write the get in and range. Okay. So let's go ahead and write the get in and range method. Public static void. To write get in and range, I'm actually going to write a get int, and then I'm going to write the get in and range, which will do the validation. I could write that as 2. I might want to write that as 2 if I need to be able to get an integer without a range or something. But so I think in this case, though, I'll just write it as 1. I was going to write it as 2, but I think in this case, I'm just going to write it as 1 because I think that will make the example shorter. So get int in range. And it takes 4 parameters. First one is a scanner that we'll call SC. The second one is the prompt. Third was an int value, which is the minimum. The fourth one is an int value, which is the maximum. Okay. So now this is an input validation loop. So we'll do a while true. We've written one of these in just about every example in the last couple of weeks. While true, first thing we do is we do our output for the prompt. Then we get our input. Then we attempt to convert this to an integer using a try-catch block. If that works, it's a valid integer. If it doesn't work, we'll catch it with a catch block. Number format exception. Called E. I misspelled number format exception. It should turn red because it's a data type. So I noticed that I misspelled it there. Exception. I spelled it again. There we go. Okay. And if it's invalid, I'll say that's not a valid. That is not a valid numeric entry. Okay. So now we have a valid integer. Okay. But I want to test to make sure that it's in between the min and the max. So I'm going to do another if statement. I'm going to say if value is greater than or equal to min and value is less than or equal to max. And I'm using the double ampersand as the and clause there. So this will say it's greater than or equal to min, less than or equal to max. If that's true, then it's good. And let's return it. If that is not true, then we want an else block. And what we want to do is we want to tell the user to please enter between the min and the max. Let's see. Value must be between, let's do this as a printf so that we can use the replacement codes. Percent D, that would be the min, and percent D, that'll be the max. And let's do a new line there. And then let's do min, max as the replacement values. Okay, so this should now require me to enter a year between 2002 and 2024. Let's run that and see if we've made any syntax errors. Typed a lot of code, I probably did. So let's see, CarLot, line 40, incompatible types, void cannot be converted to int. So line 40, int year equals get in and range. Oh, that's because my get in and range, I define it with a void data type, but it needs to be an int data type. Okay, so this seems to work. So let's see what happens when we add a car to the car lot. I should just be prompted for the year. That's the only part I've written. So what year is the car? So if I enter invalid non-numeric, then I should get this says that is my message there is wrong. That is not a valid numeric entry. Okay. Here's the car. If I enter 1999, it should say has to be between 2000 and 2024. If I enter 3000, so just testing my range check. If I enter 2020, then that should work. Okay. All right. So we haven't actually added the car yet. We've just written the get in and range value. So so now let's come back up here and let's actually do the calculation on the year. So the maximum year is going to be the current year. So you get the current year here by using this int current year equals local date.now.get year, and you have to do this import of java.time.local date. Local date is a library that allows you to use dates, and so you can create a date, you can parse string value into a date, then you can add days, you can figure out how many days are between two dates. It has all this math in it to help you manage dates in Java. So we have to do an import java.time.local date. Let's do that up here at the top. Import java.time.local date. And then here for the maximum year is the current year. So we want to say this is going to be, we had it in our assignment here, local date.now. So this is a static method. So we're using the class name local date. We're using static method.now, which means we don't have to create an instance of local date. This returns an instance of a date. So this is a constructor, a type of constructor. So then we say, once we have the date, then we'll say get the year from it and we'll assign that as an integer value. Okay. So we say int max year equals local date dot now. So that actually returns a local date data variable. It's going to be a variable which is a local date data type, but we don't want that. We just want the year. So we say get the year. That's a method that's built in to the local date instance, and that will return an integer. Okay, in this case, 2024, because that's the year that this video is written in. And this video was done. The min year we just want to say is going to be max year minus 20. That's just an arbitrary number. Okay, that's minus 20. Okay. So now let's go ahead and run that. I think we said we were going to do 30 before 30 years, but let's just do 20 just because I already typed it. Okay, so add a car to the car lot. What year is the car? So if we do 2000, that does not work. In this case, we should say it's got to be between 2004 and 2024. So if we get a 2024 model, oops, that's too big. And that should work. Okay. Okay, so now we can say we got the year. Now let's go ahead and ask for the model. There won't be any input validation on the model. We're just going to ask them what it is, and then we're just going to trust them to type it in correctly. String model equals scanner dot next line. But we need to give them a prompt there to tell them what to enter. What is the model of the car? Okay. So then they'll enter that. And then lastly, we want them to enter the mileage. So the mileage here is going to be, we're going to use the get in and range, and the minimum mileage will be 0. The maximum mileage, we could just pick an arbitrary number, 500,000, whatever, but I'm just going to pick the maximum integer value. Okay, so that will be int mileage equals get int in range. Not spell that correctly. Get in range. It requires the scanner. Look at the prompt is what is the mileage? What is the mileage? Question mark. And then the minimum value will be 0. The maximum value is we could just pick a number here, but I'm going to use the maximum integer value, which is defined in the integer class as a constant. Integer dot max value, just like math.pi or those other things. This is already defined for us. Okay, so let's try that. See if that works. Add a car to the CarLot. It's a 2020. The Camry. What is the mileage? So if I do negative value here, it should be invalid. And see, we get that this is the maximum integer value. Okay, so what's the mileage? Let's just call it 35,431. Okay, so now in our add car, we've now collected all the data that we need to create an instance of a car. So now we want to create that instance, and then we want to add it to the array list. Remember, the array list is defined here as cars. Okay, it's a static level variable, class level variable, so it can be used in any of the methods here. So now remember, to add to an array list, we want to do cars.add. Okay, and then we want to create a new instance of car, new car, and then we'll send 3 parameters: year, model, mileage. Okay, let's double check in our car. We have year, model, mileage. It's really important that you get these in the right order. If you mix these up and you send the arguments to the constructor in the wrong order, then your data is going to be wrong in your instance. So we have year, new year, model, mileage. Done. Okay. Then we can say system.out.println car has been added. Okay. Let's go ahead and run that. Add a car to the CarLot. 2020 Camry. 35,085 miles. Okay, the car's been added, but we don't really have a count here. So the message says it's been added, but how do we know? What we can do is let's add to the beginning of our main menu here the number of cars that are on the lot. So we'll come back up here to the menu, and let's just say system.out.println. Welcome to my CarLot. Okay, we can say there are, we'll change this to a printf. We'll do a new line there. Get rid of that one on line 1, and then we'll say we'll do my CarLot. And we'll do a %D here because we're going to use the size of the array list. There are cars available. So there's that many cars available. And then we'll do a new line at the end. And then we'll do the replacement value will be cars.size. So now at the beginning of every time the main menu is displayed, it will show how many cars are in the car lot. Okay. So let's go ahead and run that. So it says there are 0 cars available. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a 1, add a car to the car lot. It's a 2020 Camry, 35,671 miles. Now there's 1 car available. Okay. See, it has a little bit of a plurality problem there, because this should say 1 car. And there is logic that you can write in Java that will match your number correctly there, but we're not going to worry about that for this example. Okay, so we keep going. We could add another car. Let's say it's a 2016. It's going to be an F-150. And it's got 135,897 miles. Okay, the car's been added. Now there are 2 cars available. Okay. All right, good. So 4, we quit. Okay. So now we've added a car. So now the other option we wanted to do is wanted to be able to update the mileage for a car, and we want to be able to show the inventory. Okay. I'm going to do show the inventory first, because in order to update a mileage for a car, we need to be able to print out a list of the cars, okay? Which is basically the same as showing the inventory. So updating the mileage for a car, we want to be able to print out a menu that says, here are the cars in the lot, pick the one you want to update. So that's logic is very similar to showing the inventory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a show inventory logic, which will print out a list of cars. Then I'm going to use that same logic in the update mileage for a car, and I'm going to turn that into a menu. Okay, so let's go ahead and do option 3 first, which is show the inventory. Let's say show inventory. Okay, we're just going to call it that. And we're going to, it's not going to need the scanner, but we'll come back and add it later if we need it. So let's put it in line. It goes here in alphabetical order, public static. Show inventory. So now what we're going to do is we want to just print out the list of cars. And so because we're going to want to use this later as a menu, we're going to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is just going to be a for loop where we can print out the list of the cars. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to want a for loop. We can use an enhanced for loop here because I don't really care which index of car I have. I'm going to run through the whole thing. So I don't care if it's car number 1, car number 2, car number 3. Oh, no, wait, I do. So I'm going to have to, because I want to number them 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to need to use a for loop, not an enhanced for loop here, because I'm going to want to print car 1, car 2, car 3, etc., so that the user can print them in. So I'm going to need a counter. So let's go ahead and do a for int I equals 0. I is less than cars.size. And I plus plus. That's our for loop. So this will iterate over the cars. Now we want to do the printout for each car. So we want to say system dot. Let's do a series of let's do a printf here. Okay. And we're going to print I. Okay, because that's the number of the car, right? So so the first thing we want to print is I, so that's going to be a digit. and then we'll put a parenthesis after that. So that'll look like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then we want to print the year of the car. So we're going to say, we'll just do the year. Let's do this with a tab character. So we'll put some space in between them. And then we'll put the year. So that's going to be another digit, another decimal value, an integer. And then we'll do another tab using the /t. This will just spacing out the values, and then we'll put the model, and that's going to be a string. So that'll be a %s. Then we'll do another tab, and then we'll do the mileage, and that'll be a %d as well. Okay. And then we do the replacement value. So the first one is going to be I. The next one is going to be cars dot get I dot year dot get year. The next replacement value will be cars dot get at I dot get model. The next one will be cars dot get at I dot get mileage. And that should do it. Okay. Okay, so if we did that right, when we run this, we should just get a list of cars. We're going to want to come back and put a header on this and maybe a footer. So, but let's just run this, see what we get. Made an error, show inventory. What's that? I've left out the void when I defined show inventory. So let's run that again. I've made a bunch of errors here. So that should be printf. So this is saying no suitable method found for print line with all these values. So it's because I meant to use a printf. So that's on line 70 on CarLot. So I changed print line to printf on line 70. Okay, so now it's working. So 0 cars. So I need to add a car before I can see the printout. Let's go ahead and add, what is the year of the car? 2020. Camry. Maybe 5,000 miles. One car added. Let's go ahead and add another one. We need 15. 50. And it's got 50,000 miles out. So now there are 2 cars. Okay. And so now I can show the inventory. So option 3, show the inventory. Okay. Okay, so we're kind of there. We've got some printouts here, but we need some formatting. So we need a %n at the end of the mileage here. So let's go ahead and put that in, %n. Notice we're also numbering 0 and 1 here. So we really want to start at 1. So instead of using I, let's use I plus 1. Okay, because we want to, and we'll need to put that in parentheses for this. So we can, so because we want to number them as 1, 2, 3, the array list is numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, but humans start with counting at 1. So rather than making them pick option 0, we're going to let them pick option 1. Okay. And then we're going to want a header on here at some point. So another thing that happens here is if we quit this program and we want to test this change that we made, we have to run the program again, and we're going to have to go through the process of adding the car every time. So because we need data in our program to test our output, we have to go through this add process every time, and we'll make it take a lot longer to test our program than if we were to have data already in the program. So what we're going to do is we're going to preload some cars into our into our car lot, into our cars list, just to make the testing easier. Okay. All right, so that's better. So let's go ahead and preload some cars, and then we'll come back and we'll work some more on showing the inventory. Okay. So let's go ahead and exit the program. So in order to preload cars, what we want to do is right here at the very beginning of the program, we've defined this array list, but let's go ahead and just create some cars from scratch. So cars.add new car. So this is, I'm just going to create some test data here just to make it easier for me um, to test my program. Okay. So now I just need to enter the three values. We had some data here because we're going to have to test this mileage range at some point too. So let's just enter these. So here's a 2020 Camry with 120,134 miles on it. So that's going to be new car, 2020 Camry. And it was 120,134. Okay. Then we can do the second one, cars.add new car. That is, this was an F-150 2021 47,325. 2021 F-150 47,325. I think that's what it is. Yep. And then we have a S3, a 2023 S3 with 8,100 miles. Need 23 S3 8,100. Okay, so this is just an initialization step that helps us to test our program faster. Because every time we run the program, because we're not persisting the data, we have to create the cars on the car list. So, which will make it take a long time to test our code. So we just want to add a couple of cars here, so that when we run, if I typed all that in correctly, then so now we start with 3 cars available. So now I can just go ahead and show the inventory. So now I can test this part of the code without having to type a bunch of stuff in. Okay, we got a little bit of an alignment problem there, but we'll address that in next week. Let's call this let's just make this a little longer. So let's call it an S3 an S3-2. Okay, that'll make it match. That'll just make it line up. The problem that we have lining up here is because we're using tabs, and so S3 is only 2 characters. So the tab, it's not overlaying the tab stop that's on the console. So to do this, what we really want to do is declare column widths here. But I don't want to do that in this example. We'll come back and we'll do that in next week's example. Okay, so now we have some test data. Let's go ahead and put a header on this. And so we want to, let's put a header, say we'll have option and we'll have year and model and mileage. So we'll just put a header above our car list on the show inventory. So we do that before the for loop. We just want to do a system.out.println. Let's do a printf there because we're going to want to use the tab stop. So the first value will be a string. This is all headers. So we're going to have option, year, model, mileage. So we're going to have 3 strings. So we're going to do %in for a new line. We're going to have 4 strings, %s, %s, and a tab, %s and a tab, %s, and then a new line. Okay. And then our replacement values there are going to be string values. So the first one will be option. Let's just call it number. Okay. And then the next value will be year. The next header will be model. The next header will be mileage. Okay. And then let's just put some, let's just put a blank line at the end. Okay. Let's put a space at the end. Okay. Let's run that and see what it looks like. 3 cars available, show the inventory. Okay. I missed the mileage. Where's my mileage? Percent S, percent S. Oh, I missed one of them. So this is the number, year, left. Need 4 replacement values. I put 3 in them. Let's go ahead and quit the program and run it again. Print the inventory. Okay, that's good. Let's put a little dash line underneath that. So let's just put in some dashes. System.app.print line. Just to give it a little break. I don't know how many we need, just that many. Okay. Let's run that. Show the inventory. Okay, that's good enough. Okay. Let's go ahead and save this. So I don't want to lose my work. I'm going to go ahead and use the autosave feature. Okay, good. Always a good idea to save your work. If we've written a lot of code here, we would be bad if we lost it. So, okay, so now we've got the inventory. So show the inventory is done. Okay, but now we want to be able to update the mileage for a car. So now what I want to do for here is I want to call a method that will then show the inventory, but that will then prompt the user to enter a value 123 or something that that we can use for the to pick the car. So I'm going to create a menu based on the contents of my array list. Okay, so let's come in option 2 and let's say update mileage. Let's in the scanner because we're going to need to interact with the user. Let's define that. That's going to be here. Public static void update mileage. It takes one parameter, which is the scanner. Hit the block set. Okay, so what I want to do now is I need a menu. Okay, so the menu is going to be I'm going to want to show the inventory as the menu, right? And then I want to prompt you to say, please select the car you want to modify. And then I'm going to need to do input validation on that because you're going to have to pick a valid number, 1, 2, or 3 in this case. And then once I have that number picked, then I'll actually prompt you for the new mileage. Okay. So let's do the menu first. So the first thing we want is we want to pick the car. So let's just write a little logic here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say show the inventory. Okay. So let's say show inventory. So that's going to print out the list of cars. Okay. And then I'm going to prompt you to pick one. And I'll do that using the get int and range method. So now I'm going to say int option. Let's call it let's call it index because that's what we're picking. Index, okay, equals get int in range. and I need the scanner, and my prompt will be to please pick a car. Okay. And then the minimum value will be 0 because that's the minimum value in the array list. And then the maximum value will be, actually, that's not true. The minimum value is going to be let's see, the maximum value is the size of the array list. The minimum value is going to be, let's see, if there's no, we want you to give you an exit here. So the minimum value will be -1, okay? Or be 0. We'll say enter 0 to quit, or say 0 to exit, okay? So my minimum value is going to be 0. And my maximum value will be the number of cars in the array list, which is the size. Okay, so in this case, we have 3 cars in the array list. Valid entry is 1, 2, or 3. That picks a car, and then 0 will be the exit button. So if I pick a 0, then that means I don't want to update. I want to exit. I want to go back to the main menu. Also, keep in mind here that I'm asking the user to enter 1, 2, or 3, but that's actually going to be that's the number from the list. The actual index of the car in the car's array list is going to be that value -1, right? Because car number 3 here is actually element number 2 in the array. Car number 1 here is actually element number 0. Okay, but now I've picked an index, so I'm going to test. I'm going to say if index is equal to 0, that means I want to quit. Okay, then I'm just going to return. So that means I'm done. Go back to the main menu. Okay. So now, so if it's not equal to 0, then I want to do my logic here. Okay. So I want to do the logic to actually get correct mileage. So, but I need to subtract 1 from my index because remember if you enter 3, that's really element number 2 that you want to work with. So I subtract 1 from the index. Then I'm going to prompt you for the new mileage, and I'll use the get in and range again. In index, let's see, int new mileage equals get int in range. Pass the scanner. Enter the new mileage for see, JDoodle's kind of slow right now. Enter the new mileage. Enter the new mileage. Okay. And then the minimum here is going to be 0. And the maximum is integer dot max value. Okay. Okay, so let's test that and see if that works. Okay, so update mileage for a car. There are 3 cars in the lot. Here's my show inventory. So please pick a car 0 to exit. So if I pick 0 here, then we should go back to the main menu. Okay, all right, perfect. That worked exactly like it was supposed to. Update mileage for a car, option 2. So if we pick one, let's pick car number 3, which is really element number 2. So we want to update the S3. So but we're picking number 3, and so let's see. Enter the new mileage, 21,000. Okay. And so that works. Okay, so now we've done all the logic to pick a car and then get the new mileage. But now we actually need to update the mileage. Okay, so in order to do that, we want to use a set method. So we want to go back to the car option, to the car class here, and we want to do a set mileage. So I'm going to put my set mileage right here. It's going to be public. It's going to be a void. It's going to be set mileage. It's going to take one parameter, which is new mileage. And then its logic is going to be to say this dot mileage equals new mileage. Okay. If I spell that right. Okay, so now we have a setter. Okay, so now I want to call it from my CarLot in my update mileage. So right here after I get the new mileage, I just want to call that method. I'm going to say cars.get index dot set mileage new mileage. Okay, that should set it. Okay, let's go ahead and execute that and see if that works. Oops, made an error. New mileage, let's see, car line 18 cannot find symbol. Looks like I must have misspelled it there. I did I swapped the A and the G. So that's line 18. Mileage. Let's run that. Update. I want to change the mileage from 8,100 to 9,000. Now, to see if it worked, we can show the inventory, option 3. And we'll see that it's updated to 9,000. Okay, so that worked. That did what we wanted it to do. Okay, so there's one last thing left in our challenge, which is to print the mileage range. So we want to print high, average, low. So we need to put a method in our car instance that will return high, average, or low, and we're going to call it mileage range. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that into the car class, and we're going to call it get mileage range. It's going to be a string, public static, nope, public string, sorry. Get mileage range. Takes no parameters. Blocks open. So now this will be just an if statement. So we're going to say if mileage. Well, so first we need to figure out what the year is, right? So because the year says, the logic says its average miles per year is less than 13K, then it's low. So the first thing we need to do is figure out how old the car is. And we're going to use that using the same local dates .now. Okay, so let's back off this for a minute. Let's say so the let's call it the years old. So let's call it int age is going to equal local date .now .get year. Okay, it's going to be the current year minus the year of the car. Okay, so now age will be the year of the car. So if it could be 0 years old if it's a current model year, it could be 20 years old depending on how what those dates are. Okay, now we want to do an if statement. Okay, oh, but I need to do an import because I'm using this local date, so I need to do an import here. in this class. So import java.time.local date. I have to do that import because I'm using the local date library. Okay, so now I can do an if statement. So what's the mileage per year? So I can say double miles per year equals mileage divided by age. Okay. And one of these, in order to get a proper double, I don't really need a proper double here. So this will, if I do this, it's actually going to return an integer value, which it's going to do some rounding, which I'm okay with because we don't need to be super exact here. But just be aware that, this is rounding. You're losing some precision here because mileage and age are both integers. So if I take an integer divided by an integer, I'm going to get an integer. Okay. That should be a double, right? Because, if it should be, 1000.5 miles or something like that. So, but I'm okay with losing the decimal precision there because it's not really germane in my particular problem here. Okay. So let's go ahead and then do an if statement. So now we say if miles per year less than or equal to, and I think it was, let's see, if you're less than 13,000 miles, then you're low. If you're greater than 17, then you're high, otherwise you're average. If miles per gallon less than or equal to 13,000, then we want to return low. Okay. Else, if miles per year is greater than 17,000, I think that was the number, right? 17,000 is greater than 17,000, then it's high, and 13 to 17 is average. So if it's greater than 17,000, then return high. Okay. And then lastly, if it's none of those, then return average. Okay, so now we've written that. Let's compile it just to make sure it compiles. We've written that method. We haven't actually called it yet, so it's not going to do anything in our code, but we should at least compile it to make sure that we didn't make any syntax errors. And it looks like I'm okay. So no syntax errors. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try to run it. So we go back to the CarLot, and let's add this to our our inventory. So we're going to put the mileage in here. Let's just add another. We'll just add another. We'll add another column to our header here, and I'm going to put the range before the mileage. I'm doing that just as a simplicity because the mileage, those numbers are going to be big, and so it's going to throw off my pagination or my columns. It's going to throw off the columns. So I'm putting range here, so it's high, low, and then we're going to add another value here to say percent. So this is the number, the year, the model. Then we want to add percent S tab right there. So that'll be the range. Ours dot get at I dot get mileage range. Okay. This statement is getting a little unwieldy. So I'm thinking we're going to come back and change this up a little bit, but let's test it to make sure that it works. But I'm going to come back and change this printf into multiple lines because it's too hard to read. Well, let's make sure it works first. Okay. High, average, low. Okay. We're good there. So a little bit of a problem here in our columns. To fix that, we really need to use the uh, uh, the column values, but I'm just going to add a blank space just to kind of trick it. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to change this printf because it's so long, such a long line here, and it's kind of hard to read. I'm going to change this into multiple rows. So instead of having one printf for all 5 columns, the number, the year, the model, the range, the mileage, I'm going to do one printf for each column. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that there for now so I can kind of refer to it. But I'm going to start a new one. And so I'm just going to kind of pull these out. Whoops. I hit the back button by accident. So now I'm going to say system.out.printf. Okay. And I'm just going to do the first one, which is this %d. %d. And that and the tab, the parentheses and the tab. Okay, so that's my first column, and that is going to be I+1. Okay, then I'm going to do the second field, system.out.printf. The second field is a %d tab, and it's the year. %d tab. The replacement value there is cars.get at I dot get year. So you kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just making the code easier to read. Seems counterintuitive that more lines of code is easier to read, but in this case, that line is getting big. And for me, it's just getting hard to keep track of. And I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. So I'm just going to spread it out a little bit here so that it's easier for me to read and debug. The third line is the model. So that's going to be a %s and a tab. Replacement values is going to be cars.get at I dot get model. Okay. The next one is going to be system.out.println.printf rather. It's going to be the range, the mileage range. So that's going to be %s tab. And my replacement is going to be cars.get at I dot get mileage range. The last one is the miles. That's going to be a decimal, so that's going to be %d with a tab. Oh, there's no tab. It's going to be %d. And then we're going to do a new line at the end of that. The replacement there is going to be cars.get I dot get mileage. Okay, so those 5 lines should be identical to this first one. So I'm just going to comment this out. I'm not going to delete it yet, just in case I made a mistake. So I'm going to just comment it out. Let's see if we can run it. See if I got it all right. Show the inventory. Okay, all right, that's good. Okay, so now I can come back into let's quit that execution. I can come back into here on line 76, and I can just delete that line because I don't need it anymore because I refactored it into multiple lines here. Okay, so I think we're done. So let's just run through all the features again just to make sure that we've got it all, but I think our code is finished at this point. So I've got 3 cars in the car lot. Let's go ahead and show the inventory. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and add a car. So let's see, let's add 2021. It's going to be, let's do another Camry. And then the mileage on this one, let's say it's going to be 167,000 miles. So that's a real high mileage car. So the car's been added. Now there are 4. So show the inventory again. Here's my new car. I'll go ahead and update the mileage for a car. Okay, pick a car. So if I pick number 2, the F-150. Here's another new mileage. It's 47,325 now. Let's change it to 57,624. Four cars show the inventory. 57,624. It's now it's high. It was average, now it's high. Okay. All right. So I think that does it. I think that is the complete example there. So this example was very complex. This is the most complex program we've written so far. This is about it. We're gonna add just one other feature here to be able to read and write our data to CSV files, but this is about as complex as our programs are going to get for this course. Okay, so that's the example here, and you'll be able to find the code posted in Canvas as if you need to look at it.